He could die for it. He could mobilize a lot of people for it. He could speak about it. He could say things about it. If you've been to the desert before and you're telling a person about the desert, you know what it means. You're telling them. It shows through your voice. It shows through the way you speak. What is the source of belief? Why is it that some people have more drive to do a thing, to accomplish it, than a number of other people? Is it because they were born with a certain way of thinking, or did they acquire it along the way? Is there a way to choose to believe on a thing and increase your belief on a thing? And how does it come? Where are we going? What are we doing? Let's try and analyze and look at those things in this video. Have a look at. Have you ever wondered? Have a look at this. Have you ever wondered why is it that the people who record some historical events are able to get it in really great degrees of accuracy? I listened to a podcast at a time. It said that when something happens and it's really traumatic, when a thing happens and it's really traumatic, your brain kind of finds it hard to forget. Recordings of an earthquake can be really detailed, and if you ask people about it, they're really able to tell you what time of day it happened, how the weather was, who they were with, what they ate that morning. But if you ask them about things from other times, from other days of their life, they may not entirely remember what happened. The difference between the 2 days is because one of them was a traumatic event. A traumatic event happened on that day, and for the other, it wasn't so traumatic, so they kind of forgot about it. So it was kind of imprinted in their memory. Some people never forget their first love. They might never forget the first person they fell in love with. They never forget their first divorce. I'm not recommending for anyone to divorce, but for any reason, those who divorced may remember what color of suit they wore to the court, what property was taken away from them, what percentage was divided, even down to what was written on the papers, what was the name of the lawyer. Not that kind of case that happened when he got a speeding ticket and needed to maybe go to court for it. Maybe he didn't pay. First, depending on how traumatic the event was, it kind of sticks into the mind and just doesn't go. If you look at records of people's trauma, what people wrote down, what people learned, even in people's minds, even if it wasn't written down, though some details may be skipped, but the key things may still remain in their stories that they say, even from offhand. Now, let's look at how do we grow belief? What makes some belief strong? How do you get your determination to get things done, to do things? Are we just destined to be lazy and not feel the fire in our hearts when we are getting some things done? We've lived different lives in some regards. In some ways, our lives are very similar. We're living in the same country, probably, but we're all living in the same planet, except you're living in a different planet. But yeah, some of us were born with parents. Some of us never met our parents. Some of us were born and we had a lot of friends. And for some people did not have many friends. So if you're considering all of these things, what is the source of belief? A person who was born in a country that was in war and they did not have much to eat, they saw a lot of suffering, it's much easier under normal circumstances for them to say, I never want this to happen to anyone else. I'm going to try to end world hunger. I'm going to give to charity. I'm going to maybe start with charity. I'm going to help a lot of people. That's the reason for their belief. That is the way they think, because of what they had been through. If you meet a person who never had to suffer any of those things, never had to pass through any of those things, they kind of think maybe everybody is like them, and people did not have to pass through what they passed. They never passed through what others passed through, but the one who went through that situation knows exactly what it feels to be in that situation. Maybe women who were exploited, or men who went through a heartbreak, they never want anyone else to be in such environment. If you listen to some of these speakers on YouTube or on Instagram, some of them decide to start channels because of something that happened to them. They say no one else would pass through this. I know of Dave Ramsey. He's a person that speaks so much against debt, going into taking a loan on doing stuff like that. He had been in debt before and he found a way to get out, and he doesn't want people to be in such situation. So if you're trying to get that kind of belief that he has, it's either you listen to him much or you pass through the same situation, but not recommended to pass through the same situation. What we hear repeatedly sticks to us. If you listen to music that is singing of sadness or violence, guns and drugs, etc., it may be on your mind and continue to be on your mind. As you meditate on it, you're kind of unwinding what you learned before and wiring your brain in a certain way because you're learning from it. So number one is trauma. You may not know the effect of what comes out from your trauma. So I wouldn't recommend trying to simulate trauma. Depending on how you do it, you may be able to put yourself in such situation and get to feel what those people are feeling. Say a person who wants to feel what people who are hungry feel, he decides to go into some remote village in Africa and live in the place that the people are living and dress the way they dress, or watch videos and keep on watching videos on what happens in such situation. The one with so much belief could be that person that was born in that situation, or that person that lived many years in that situation and knows what it means to be in that situation. It causes him to be so drastic about the change he wants to speak. It shows through your hand movement. People know that you've been there, even if they've never seen records of you being there, but they know from the way you speak. I know actors can kind of simulate it and lie and speak in a way that people think they have experienced what they haven't experienced. But over the long term, people who have actually lived the thing actually show that they lived the thing because they continue in it for so long that it's no longer them faking it. If you've not had the experience that makes you believe it so much, I think you could study about it. But this is lesser than experience, the belief that comes from experience. If you want to believe that you can teach a person to pass exams, or maybe teach a person to get $1 million in business, you would need to work closely with someone who has made $1 million. And after you're done, come out, open your own business, get $1 million, and then your belief would be much greater than a person who started without $1 million. It comes with evidence. Our brains may constantly wants to see proof before it takes action. So what better way to trust the process, take the action, and then increase your belief? You're trying to increase your belief and get a lot of belief. Do not let your belief be baseless. Give your belief basis so that your subconscious and your conscious mind would be on the same level of thought. You will no longer be trying to convince yourself that, oh, though I haven't seen results yet, but let's believe. You could hope. Hope doesn't see anything yet, but faith sees it. Now, how do we make sure that how do we take it off willpower, willing ourselves into believing, but actually believing on autopilot? Because we've done it before, we know that it can happen, we've experienced it. It's no longer you forcing yourself to know it. You have done it and you have seen it. If you're a surgeon and you've worked on a lot of patients, you're no longer having to, well, you may have some doubts from time to time, depending on the case. But if it's a case you've done many times, you walk into it with a lot of belief. You know that you've done it before, you've done it maybe 10 times. During it the 11th time, your hands are no longer shaking, you're no longer feeling nervous. If you're speaking, you want to have some belief that you will get on stage and not embarrass yourself, you'll be able to speak properly. You get on stage. If it's your first time, give yourself the benefits of the doubt. People fail their first time. Some people fail their first time. You don't have to beat yourself up the first time. But if it's the increased belief, kind of simulate the end goal and accomplish that task in that simulated environment. If you're trying to speak to 1,000 people and you've never spoken to 1,000 people before, maybe you've never spoken on stage, try to speak in front of friends. Tell them to come around and you want to practice your speech. Try to speak to maybe a larger group of people, maybe not as large as the one you're about to speak to, but even if you can find, the closer to the target it is, the more you can build belief. It would need to come with evidence. Evidence in the simulated environment, but you could help yourself by studying and trying to rewire your mind. If you're rewiring your mind, there is the side that doubts you and the side you're trying to will into belief. So you're believing, you're kind of forcing yourself to believe, but there is the logical part of you that is saying, nah, this will not work. The way to get the one who is shouting to say it will not work, to stop or to calm down, to shut up, is to feed your mind on things that are counter what this is saying. If you feed your mind on what is against what this is saying, its voice would quiet down. Not to remain on those thoughts, to think different, to behave different, to put yourself in a situation that is dependent on what you are trying to believe. If you're trying to take a test, you want to believe that you passed the test, do a lot of practice exercises, practice a lot more, do it more and more, over and over again, over and over again. If you're selling, you're a salesperson, you want to believe that you could close a deal. For this one, you're dealing with human beings, and human beings can change. Human beings can change. So even the best salesperson may not be able to sell to every single person on the earth. So give yourself the benefits of the doubt that all things may not be the same for everybody in terms of what your interaction to other human beings. So, but you can know that you can do your part. You can speak. You can accomplish what you want to accomplish. You can actually give the sales motion. You can actually say what you want to say, not freeze up in front of the client. You can hold the meeting. You can talk to people. You can manage the team. You can grow a business to $1 million. You can grow a business into $100 million. You can grow a business to $1 billion. It comes with practice. It's not you speculating. It's you actually being there. It's you doing that and no longer forcing yourself to believe, but actually knowing that you've done it before. You have records. Even you have photos. You have a picture of it on your wall, for example. I think that's the primary source of belief. Belief can come from seeing it and doing it, or willing yourself into doing it, willing yourself into believing it by feeding on a lot of materials and listening to so many people that have done it that your belief increases. So if it's a kind of situation that you cannot simulate physically, you could try to simulate it in your mind. Think about it, think about it, think about it. There's a way you can increase your heart rate by thinking of a situation, maybe imagining something that is, imagining a tiger chasing you, a lion chasing you, and your heart increases, your heart rate increases because of what you're thinking about. So simulating in your mind, thinking about it, imagining it in your mind can actually lead to a good result. You can imagine it and think about it. What's the way forward? What will it look like? There are 1,000 people in front of me and I need to talk to them. How do we get this done? But there is, depending on how much you can imagine it, you can actually bring yourself really close to the real deal. But how can you imagine a thing that you haven't seen before? Maybe videos can help, audios can help, listening to people who have done it before can help. Especially people who look just like you, people who are your age, people who are in situations that are really close to yours. How did they overcome? It can increase your belief. So that is essentially how we can increase our belief.